I wanted to turn now to the unemployment figures during the week. A lot of speculation that unemployment rate still being this low, 4.1%, means we'll have to wait longer for a rate cut. What do you make of that speculation?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's looking at all of the economic data, Andrew, and sort of trying to work out, particularly around interest rates. I mean, employment data will be part of it, but so will quarterly inflation figures and a whole range of other information that the bank will look at. I mean, it is a pretty extraordinary result, I have to say, that we've still got jobs being created and unemployment so low in this country. 1 million jobs in the first term of the Albanese government is an extraordinary result when you think about it. And this is part of the balance, right, is bringing inflation back down to target band without losing lots of jobs, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing inflation come back and the labour market hold pretty steady, which is a really extraordinary outcome.
Is it representative of the economic situation, though, the unemployment figure, when it seems that somewhere between 60 and 90% of jobs at the moment are being created from public funds, public sector workers? I mean, isn't the private sector and the economy doing a lot worse than the government is saying?
Well, I think when you look at the jobs and that, I saw that claim from Senator Cash saying that it's all public servant jobs. And when you look a bit deeper, it's certainly jobs that are in the care economy. So you see that in health and education, but also more broadly across the care economy. And that's, I think, a very good outcome too. So it's not just what I think Michaelia Cash would like to demonise as public servants, but it's a much broader scope of jobs being created. And that's a good thing too, because we have a lot of shortages in the care economy sector as well. So if we're seeing jobs created, people taking those positions, that's a great result. But again, I say, when we look around the world, when you're seeing we are doing very well on the jobs and keeping people in employment, which is a really important part of our economic plan. And, I think when we look at what's happening here compared to other countries, we're doing pretty well, acknowledging, of course, as we always do, that people are doing it tough.
Is the care economy holding up the economy, though?
Oh, well, when you look at some of the jobs that are being created, and, the services side of the economy is an important part of our labour market. We need people in aged care, in disability, in early education and care. And we have been, and state governments have been, as well as the Commonwealth, looking at how you resource the public sector properly. When you look at schools and hospitals and places like that, these are critical workers in critical jobs. And I don't think they should be demonised because they're in that category of worker.
There was a story in The Australian yesterday featuring correspondence between the Treasurer's office and the Prime Minister's office, where the Treasurer was encouraged to add a line to a speech about the future made in Australia, and the Treasurer declined to put a line in his speech then that the PMO suggested, saying that the economy is weak. Do you agree the economy is weak?
I think we've been seeing that, elements of weakness across the economy in the national accounts and other data. I mean, and we've been pretty upfront about that, I think. There's certainly some challenges that we've been seeing in relation to growth and productivity that we want to address. So I don't think that's unusual. And I did see the story as well in the paper yesterday. And again, I don't think there's anything surprising that you would see chats between officers about a big speech that one of the ministers were given. It's a pretty normal way of conducting business across, executive government. I certainly share my speeches. I often share them with Jim, with the PMO, and if they've got suggestions to make that would improve it, or ones that I don't agree with, your words are your own, so you make those comments yourself.
Let me ask about the decision by the Treasurer to ask his department for advice on negative gearing changes. Were you privy to that call for advice?
Look, certainly the discussions I've had with the Treasurer, and I think he's addressed this in lots of media conferences, including ones where I've stood next to it. Again, it's not unusual for Treasurers or ministers to be seeking information that are matters being ventilated in public discourse. It's part of us doing our job properly. There's I think an annual statement that goes out around, what's happening with the tax system. So certainly negative gearing, capital gains tax would be part of that. I think it's really part of the ongoing job of the Treasurer and the Treasury to be looking at all these matters and seeing what's happening both in the, utilisation of it and also how much those tax concessions, in this case, impact on the budget.
And what did
information.
What did the advice say? Have you seen the advice?
Well, I don't know that there's a specific piece of advice. I certainly haven't seen anything. I think it's more an ongoing discussion between the Treasury and the Treasurer about matters relating to tax more generally that happens as the normal part of the Treasurer doing his job. And, I think the Treasurer and the PM and others have made it clear that isn't part of our housing policy. Our housing policy is focused on generating supply of housing, which is the real constraint in the housing market at the moment.
Does Treasury want to see this? Does Treasury want to see changes to negative gearing?
Well, I don't think the Treasury has a view on these matters, I don't get briefed by the Treasury, so I can only speculate, but it's part of them doing their job. They're responsible for all matters relating to the receipts, the tax side of the budget, and I imagine they brief the Treasurer about what's happening with that. But again, when we're looking, and I work with the PM and the Treasurer on these matters pretty much on a daily basis, the focus of all of our discussions have been on supply of housing. How do we generate more supply of housing and how do we get more people into owning their own home?